The war finally came to an end. Starving, out of men, and on the verge of revolution, Germany agreed to withdraw its army across the Rhine River. The armistice that ended the war went into effect on November 11, 1918 at 11 a.m., the 11th hour of the 11th day in the 11th month. The time was known in advance, yet some commanders insisted on attacking German lines right up to 11 a.m. At least 300 American soldiers were killed in combat during the last morning of the war. The last officially recorded American casualty was Henry Gunther, killed charging a German machine gun at 10:59 a.m. When news reached the States of the armistice, crowds erupted in celebrations that engulfed entire cities like New York and Chicago. November 11th was Der Tag, the day for peace. Our boys and girls were coming home. The class take on the war is that it didn't mean much for America. The U.S. never accepted the Versailles Treaty that settled the war in 1919. The Americans came home and left European problems to Europeans. Momentous changes were happening back home in America. Women got the vote. Prohibition on alcohol kick-started bootlegging and organized crime. Hollywood and jazz music changed the ways that people had fun. The image of American women changed from subservient housewives into short-skirted independent flappers who danced, smoked, and drank right along with the men. Industrial mobilization had brought thousands of rural people to the cities. America didn't just look like farms surrounded by amber waves of grain anymore. America looked like an industrial, urban, fun-loving culture and a world power. Parades were held for the returning troops who marched down the streets of America's major cities. Famous figures like Father Duffy, James Reese Europe, and Wild Bill Donovan made a lasting impact on American history and culture. But statues and monuments all over our country record the hundreds of thousands of anonymous neighborhood boys and girls who went off to fight in America's First World War. The next time you see one, give it a closer look. We mark the end of the war each November 11th on Veterans Day. It is commonly forgotten that the holiday was originally called Armistice Day and celebrated the end of the Great War. On Veterans Day, stop to remember the century of modern-era soldiers that began with the doughboys, hellfighters, and hello girls. The American men and women who fought all over the world to serve and defend the country that we live in today. For those who died, Alan Seeger left a lasting tribute. I have a rendezvous with death at some disputed barricade. When spring comes back with rustling shade and apple blossoms fill the air. I have a rendezvous with death when spring brings back blue days and fair. It may be he shall take my hand and lead me into his dark land and close my eyes and quench my breath. It may be I shall pass him still. I have a rendezvous with death on some scarred slope of battered hill. When spring comes round again this year and the first meadow flowers appear. God knows 'twere better to be deep, pillowed in silk and scented down, where love throbs out in blissful sleep, pulse nigh to pulse and breath to breath, where hushed awakenings are dear. But I've a rendezvous with death at midnight in some flaming town, when spring trips north again this year, and I to my pledged word am true. I shall not fail that rendezvous.